everybody? Welcome back to Jump Dropper Sports. I'm your host, Sean T. Stewart, back here with a special guest today. You know what I'm saying? Fellow Gamecock alum, my Gamecock brethren, Forrest Tucker. Man, he's a self-pronounced sports storyteller, soccer podcaster, digital creator, all from the great University of South Carolina, where we both hail from. My brother, how you doing, man?
It's good, man. It's good to hear your voice. Good to be with you and everything. So no complaints.
Look, man, we love to hear it, dog. So I mean, look, we know why we're here.
hmm
We're here to talk about our boys. But I gotta ask you, man. So far this season, South Carolina sitting at 3-2. What have been your thoughts? Are you happy with what you've seen so far? Or are you a little disappointed? Like where are you at right now with South Carolina football?
I think that this probably is Shane Beamer's, what have you done for me lately, biggest test of his tenure here so far, because you have a stretch of what is it? It's more like it's not 4 games. We're focusing on the games in October, but it's 5 games against all teams in the top 12 of this country right now, as it stands. And you have to get a win, 3 away, 2 home. This is going to be a huge litmus test for him. I think that that's the biggest thing is Shane has beat teams that are definitely beatable. But this is the thing: is we want to see steps forward. We don't want to see stagnation because he's had seasons where we've seen a great increase in prospects and vibe and culture and all this stuff. And then we've had disappointments and falling on our face. So if we're going to take the next step as a program here, Shane Beamer has to get these guys to kind of overperform what people probably think they are going to be. The defense and the special teams, is showing their glimpses and really showing out. But the offense has just been so putrid. I mean, when you look at the numbers, we'll get into them in a moment. It's just really disappointing that Lenore Sellers and Mike Shula, this transition that we were kind of sold on as being just seamless, has not lived up to any hype that I had for it.
And look, man, I wholeheartedly agree. With the defense, it was kind of expected that there would be some ebbs and flows just
hmm
because of the amount of guys that you lost in last year's draft class. So that was to be expected. But even that group is, like you said, even that group is found its stride here and there. Especially in that Kentucky game where you saw them force multiple turnovers, and you saw even against South Carolina State where a lot of your points came from either defensive touchdowns and special teams alike. Offensively, that one's still a head scratcher. I'm still wondering why hasn't Lenore's been let loose. It does feel like he's been constricted to just staying within the pocket. The Kentucky game was the first time all year I felt like he looked like himself. Looked like he was taking charge. Like, hey, look, he's scrambling outside the pocket. He's making the big time plays that we saw like in games like Texas A&M, games like Missouri, like all those big time moments from last year. That Kentucky game felt a lot like those from 2024. I guess my biggest question now is: do you think there's a path for this team to get it to right the ship? I mean, you look at LSU; they're a team that is they're in an odd place right now. While they are only 4-1, I think many would say that their offense has also been disappointing. Garrett Nussmeier um, dealing with a core injury. I can't remember what exactly the injury that I saw, but he's been dealing with some things. That offense hasn't quite found its stride yet. Is there a chance that South Carolina could go into Baton Rouge and possibly go steal one?
Mm. I think it's really tough. We haven't had many good memories in Baton Rouge, and so I think that's the thing is you have to ask yourself how mature is this team, and everything. But to me, Nussmeier, this is what you do with a good quarterback, right? You understand this and they're going to want to do this to Carolina. You have to keep them off the field. I mean, the defense is probably going to have to steal something for us here. I mean, it's really difficult because you want to have the ball in Norris's hands. The tough thing is, when I look at this, on paper here, 35% of third downs have been converted by South Carolina this year. So they have to make sure they keep hold of the ball. And it's about this team being a threat in all 3 phases. And I just haven't seen that yet, like we said. So for them to compete in this game and pass this game, it's are you going to keep the ball out of the hands of these SEC quarterbacks who are going to hurt you? And I think that is something that to me I'm going to be looking for is time of possession. Are you going to maintain it? And really, it's trying to contain these LSU receivers, these LSU backs, Garrett Nussmeier. To me, I feel like I don't know, on the road this season, Mizzou only, right? I mean, shoot, yeah, I mean, a neutral environment with Virginia Tech, but this
Hmm.
is that Mizzou crowd was rowdy, and LSU's going to be rowdier. So I think it's going to be how do they handle this. Past that, just a thought. I mean, we don't know what John Mateer's future looks like with injury at OU. So that to me, I'm not chalking that up as a win, but I'm just saying like there's it, you're trying to find wrinkles to be like, well, where can we get some wins out of this? I think any game's winnable. It just really matters who's going to show up. Like, if we can extend on this Kentucky performance and realize, like, hey, that was Kentucky, that was great. Like, that's like when we beat Charleston Southern. That's cool. It was a high school game, whatever. Like, we need to understand. Like, Beamer Heskes, these guys understand. Like, look, guys, this literally will come down to this can come down to a few plays. Like this LSU team, we can say they are the same or better as last year, whatever. They have the same quarterback, but they shouldn't even worry about last year. Like, put last year out of your mind, Gamecock Nation. Put it out of your mind. We
Yeah.
this is not the playing field it was playing at home, and I think that's the
No.
biggest thing is you have to how are you going to handle yourself in this environment?
And I think the best way to handle yourself on the road is to be able to run the football. That's
Mm,
gonna a run game typically travels the best on the road. If you and to your point, like you said, ball control, keeping that ball out of LSU's hands. I think if you can somehow muster up a ground game with Faison, Attaway, and Matthew Fuller, who showed
hmm
some signs.
Yes.
He showed me a little bit of things in that Kentucky game. The numbers aren't flashy, but if I just watch the game and say, look, man, who runs with the most sense of urgency? Matthew Fuller seems
Yes.
to me to be the guy that he runs with the intent to try to go score. I need to see something from those three. Whatever tandem is able to work, find it, find the rhythm, and roll with those guys. If I leave as many guys in to protect Lenore as possible. If you're going to
hmm
pass the ball, I
hmm
need a guy like a guy like Brady Hunt. Hey man, we need you to be an inline blocker and just help us out. Maybe line up at H back some just to help us provide some more time. I think the more time you have for guys like Van Jacobs and guys like Nick Harbor, those two have those two surprisingly, well Van Jacobs surprisingly has turned into one of
Yeah.
the better weapons in the SEC. I would love to allow those guys to use that track like speed to try to stretch the defense, possibly create possibly just create some more openings underneath for guys like maybe Brian Rowe, who's had a
hmm
nice freshman year so far. Maybe you see Mazio Bennett get some more reps out there. Just any and everything that you can do is gonna come down to protection and can you run the football? And
hmm
winning the line of scrimmage in general in this conference is pretty paramount if you actually want to have a chance of winning multiple games within the SEC.
Yeah, I think the thing that is you hit on a couple things I definitely was thinking about. For these tight ends, it's kind of like, well, look, guys, this offensive line needs help, and whether you have a Case and Henry starting again or somebody different, the who's who of who's been backing up that position down the depth chart or anything. I mean, this line, like 7'4" Josiah Thomas. I mean, oh my gosh, I want to pull my hair out. That poor kid, he was just racking up everything that was wrong, like dirty yellow laundry everywhere. And so, yeah, for the tight ends, you have to. It's like, do we have to make a decision of are you gonna guys are gonna block or catch? Because Jordan Dingle, I saw him at Kentucky. He's not. He's a big dude. Like, but for these tight ends, it's like, look, guys, yeah, Lenoris needs a clean pocket. And I think it's hard because I get this deja vu of watching him and Lamar, back to back days on Sundays, same kind of thing. It's like, you're trying to teeter the line of are we going to pass from the pocket? When do we take off? And if we're taking off, is it too early? Is it too late? Like, it's hard to be caught in two minds like that. Like, what a predicament. But I think the biggest disappointment on this football team this season, and I hate to say it's about kids, but it's Mazio Bennett. Because you wanted him and Nick to be the guys that were the guys, and when you're starting, shout out Stacy Huff on our girl Naj's dad. Talk with him on Twitter about the receiving core. Brian Rowe, Donovan Murph starting over Mazio Bennett. You're like, where is this guy? Like last season, he was one of the guys. And it's tough because you're like, man, I wish the media in Columbia would do a little more digging on someone like him and everything because I just feel like he has not shown up at all. And his stats are atrocious. Matt Fuller, you know, someone was saying Rasul Faison kind of waits for things to develop and then goes off. It's kind of like, well, that's okay, but you need someone like you're saying
Uh-huh.
who's going to run his feet into the ground and put his head down. Like that. That's what you need. You need someone who's going to scare these linebackers, these guys in the secondary. And I don't think anyone scared anyone in the SEC as far as Carolina's running attack goes. I mean, you have Nick Harbor, but you need to scare people. Mike Shul's offense should scare people. And I don't see the Mister like we need to Pavia everybody else. We need you. You got Pavia. We got Pavia. We need to. We have one of the people saying he's a Heisman candidate, Lenoris. Shut up about that until you see him and Mike Shula work in tandem. I'm serious. I'll vomit if I hear anyone say that anymore.
I
My
but
right's over.
but I mean, you look, you but you're dead right on it. Like you said, I would really like to know what happened in the off season to where Brian Rowe and Donovan Murph you just jumped over Van Jacobs and Mazio Bennett, and how
Hmm.
like these were guys that. You look at what Beam and company did in the offseason, they made it a point to make sure they kept all of their guys out of the portal. So
Hmm.
to keep
Yeah.
all of these guys out of the portal, and then all of a sudden we get to the season, and now we have true freshmen. And I mean, look, whoever the best guy is, let him play. I'm not
Hmm.
saying
Yeah,
you
for
got to play
sure.
guys because of seniority, but dog, Mazio made big time plays for you last year. He as a true freshman. So to see him go from that to barely getting any snaps is kind of a crazy 180. But like you said, but like you said though, with Lenore Sellers and Mike Shula, the lack of creativity with those two
Hmm. Yeah.
has been kind of mind numbing. You look like you said, you look at Diego Pavia. You look at how Clark Lee and their offense coordinator uses Pavia, get them outside the pocket, get them out in space. We have arguably the best running quarterback in college football.
Yeah.
It's probably I'd say him, Marcel Reed, or two of the best in college football. And I don't see I rarely see Lenore's out in space. They rarely move the pocket for him. They have him sitting in this very stagnant offense where he's sitting back playing a drop back style. And I'm like, look, I love the fact that they want to make him grow his game as a pocket passer. I really do. That's not going to help us win in the
Not
SEC
the
right
time
now.
for it. Not the
That's
time
gonna
for it. Not the time
not
for it.
right now, man. Like if he decides to come back for another year, or if he goes to the league, he'll learn how to be a pocket passer. And the further he gets into his career, you can't you can't teach that all in one off season. Like even for a guy like Lamar that you spoke about, that took him multiple seasons of working in the NFL system before he got that down pat. So and you can survive without it early on. It's just right now. Hopefully over the bye week, I want to give this coaching staff the grace to think that over the
Hmm.
bye week that they went in, looked in the mirror, and said, "Hey, look, we got to change something. Something's got to change. We have a whole stretch of the season left to go, and it's not going to get any easier. Hopefully, we change something, and maybe threw in a few wrinkles here and there to help with this offense moving forward. If there's any time to do it, it was over the bye week to try to reestablish what your game plan for the rest of the year is going to be. So I'm intrigued to see how their offensive game plan looks going when they come out against
Yeah.
LSU.
Well, here's what I don't want to see. I don't want to see. This is, I feel like two words you don't want to hear it in the bye week are offensive install. But like, it's like you have to tier that line of, to me, I'm like, hey, did you install some new stuff? Did you practice some new stuff? And no, don't make it too much. I don't want to see you trying to pull something out of the hat that really is not going to work in Death Valley, and we're all like, oh my gosh. But look, coaching staff wise, a couple things there. It grinds my gears that we have not seen this team and maybe Travian Robinson involved in a, horrific car crash early in the morning, couple weeks, months ago. More on the weak side, and maybe his privacy has been respected in a lot of ways by the creative team or the team in general. But man, this team is rally around him. Like this guy almost died, and it seems like in a sense, and I know that's kind of obscure to bring up, but I feel like this team needs some fire. This team needs some fire. I mean, it's really difficult. And this defense has played with it. I'm not saying it's not there. I'm not doubting them. But, the tough thing is fans are questioning the coaching staff. They're questioning Mike Fury. I've been questioning Lonnie Teasley for since the first week or second week of the season. And so I think that's the thing, though, is when you look at that and you're like, look, Shane, if I'm not saying Shane's a nice guy, he's not going to fire people, but Shane has to go out and get people. We're clamoring for people to get Sam Pittman from Arkansas this week. And it's funny because it's like,
Facts.
look, okay, that's not happening midseason. We know that because let me tell you right now,
Right.
Lonnie T's going to be like, you brought in this guy, he just got fired, and now he's free. You want to bring him in, and what's that say about me? So that's not a good move. They did that, like for anything. But I just think, hey, look, Sam Pittman. I mean, you can get on the phone, Shane. Get on the phone and tell Sam to come to Columbia because I'm sure he'd do great here and everything. It's difficult because
Honestly.
it you know it's just difficult to watch because you wanted this team to extend upon things. I'm not saying there's no culture there with that. I just think it's certainly one of those things you don't want to see them rest on their laurels or say, we're complacent or we're not complacent, but you kind of like, well, you guys are showing a little bit of it. So we'll see about that.
Man, it's gonna be it's gonna be an interesting one. I think my biggest concern for this defense, man, is gonna be how do you stop these wideouts of LSU? I know they
Hmm.
haven't had the big they haven't had big numbers like they've had in years past, but just a guy that you would be aware of, Barry and Brown. That's a
Hmm.
guy that
Yeah,
worries me
true
because
say.
that kind of speed, what he can do, and as far as stretching the secondary, I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned about us having a matchup for that because I don't know at corner. I'll say this: Brandon Cisse from the
Hmm.
transfer from North Carolina State, been very good.
Yeah.
I've loved what he's brought. Without Judge Collier on the other side, I've been very questionable to whoever's going to be the partner in crime on the opposite corner. And so far, they tried Miles Norwood. I think the transfer from Ball State, if I'm not mistaken. Bakari Swain's got some chances at it. I think your best bet is probably roll with Bakari Swain for the rest of the year, just because from an athletic standpoint, he
Hmm.
fits the profile of a guy that can play SEC caliber ball. Miles Norwood, I've seen him look scared to death against Vanderbilt, and I'm just gonna be honest. I don't care how good Vanderbilt gets. People can tell me, "Oh, times have changed." If you look scared to death against Vanderbilt wide receivers, brother, I don't know if you can play in this conference. I truly cannot. I don't know if this is for you. If Vanderbilt is striking fear into your heart like that, so you know what I'm saying. Finding that answer at corner, but I will say my pleasant surprise this year though has been Jared Kilgore. I've loved watching him get his opportunities and make plays alongside his brother, and it's not just a feel good story. He's
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
legitimately out there making big time plays. He had a big time interception against Missouri, had another big time interception against Kentucky. All I've seen from the guy is production since he's gotten the shot. So I mean, I'm wondering what I'm wondering where do we find our wins and Death Valley is. I would have to say your best player Dylan Stewart is gonna have to show up big time. Him and Brian Thomas are gonna have to be able to put some pressure on whoever's playing quarterback for LSU that night.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is, I mean, do you feel like even you kind of move some guys around and have some safeties play corner, or do you think that's not anything that would be helpful?
I think the only I think the only guy I would feel comfortable moving out there the corner would be Jalen Kilgore. He's the
Hmm.
only guy, but only because he's played a lot of nickel here in his first couple of seasons. I wouldn't. I would throw him out there, and I could feel confident in that. I'm like, he has the best skill set to be able to play all over the field. He, it would take away something from us in the back end because
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I mean, trying to work in guys like Peyton Williams has been a bit has had its ups and downs. DQ Smith, and again, like you said before, I try to be careful what I say about some of these guys because these are kids, and especially in accordance to how old we are, these are kids. But
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
just haven't seen that senior leadership and that senior level of play from DQ Smith on a weekly that makes me feel great about that position back there either. So it's I don't know if I could take a guy out of that room right now and try to put him in the corner room because truth be told,
Hmm.
I just think that secondary has been that's been a disappointing unit for me this year. That was the unit I was expecting to be, the creme de la creme. I was like, hey, look, you got guys that transferred in, you got guys returning. This there's been a level of continuity within that group for a few years. I should see that group stay at a certain level. But when you miss guys like Nick and Maori, I think we kind of underestimated how good that defense was last year. I think coming into this year, I think and it can't be understated how much guys like him meant to that group.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, with Barryon Brown, I watched him in Kentucky for 2 years be, I don't know. I don't want to. I don't know how to put this. He for the hype that people commentators in a game gave him, he never really showed up compared to that. And now I obviously understand, and like you do, everyone does. Hopefully, the hype that you get from the media does not correlate. That's not the magic sauce. However, I believe that for him, he talked a lot about becoming more mature, and we kind of saw that in his second year, his last year at Kentucky. We kind of didn't. So I don't know. I mean, look, this guy's always a threat. He has SEC records on special teams for returning, and he's lethal on that regard. I just think it's so it we we know LSU. If you watch the Saturday any given Saturday, last year LSU they had all their road bumps in the road and this that and the third whatever, and now maybe they're a real different team. Who knows? As far as just that, but I think it's so crazy because this is so young in the season. Like this is the middle part of the season we're getting into, and the bigger picture for me is looking at the fact that these teams coming up from now until early November have a combined 2 losses at this point. So, to me, I just kind of look at it and I say, hey, you have to show, if South Carolina's dropped in everyone's rankings. They're not in the top 25 anymore. If you want to show that you are, I don't know, I don't think it depends on if Mizzou and Vandy are college football playoff teams, then maybe there's still a shadow of that. But everyone got humbled real quick, even in the wins, when you saw that this team is nowhere near that. And I don't know. I think that's the thing that's tough is, you know, uh, for this team, it would hate to feel like a step back in the grand scheme of things. I think that for Shane Beamer, we have to also remember that he's a first time head coach. And so you wonder, you're just like, man, this guy's figuring out things as much as these kids are and these coaches are. And, a bowl game is success. Like, we have to remember what it was like when we were at school and it was putrid.
Yeah.
So, it's like we have to really, I think tempering expectations is important. But, this program, if it's going to keep moving, has to, you are not expected, you're expected to put up a fight and show things. I mean, here's the thing. I'm not scared of Alabama. I'll tell you right now. I'm not scared of Kalen DeBoer. I'm not scared of them. I'm Brett Venables. I'm not scared of anyone who, I'm not scared of Clemson Tigers. I'll just say that. But I think you look at A&M, and here's where you get into this thing. I'm gonna correlate my two, my alma mater, my past couple years of sports. Mark Stoops at Kentucky got into, and the fans and the analysts, the commentators. Yeah, when you're at Kentucky, you expected to win these games. Now, Mark Stoops, obviously, longest tenured head coach in the SEC at UK right now, after Saban left. But with Beamer, it's going to be more of in these next couple years, including this year. Hey, you beat A&M last year. You beat UK. You're expected to win these games. So for me, I'm looking at this like you're expected to win these games, you're expected to do this. And so I think that's the thing is, will this team understand that as well? Like, hey, it's going to come down to plays and everything. It's tough because you do look on paper and you say, well, some of these teams have talent that it seems like we maybe don't have this year. I think that's the sucker punch for me. Is like, do we have the talent that we can rely on? Or will guys have to overperform? And I think that's a tough thing for a football team to have to do and feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, having to overperform in this conference where you're playing in 80,000 plus stadiums, everything feels like it's going to be against you when you play on the road. There are some winnable games here. I mean, while even
Mhm.
LSU, I know Vegas has moved the spread from 8.5 to 9.5, and I mean, I can't quite say whether I believe South Carolina can cover that. But Oklahoma's winnable. Like you said, Alabama's winnable. Ole Miss and Texas A&M probably give me the most. Like they probably strike the most fear in me right now. I think those two teams are playing the best ball of any of
Yeah.
the teams that we have that we have left as far as like complete ball. Um, it, again, that opportunities here. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna choose to look at it from a glass half full perspective and
Hmm.
say, look, you got a lot of opportunity on this schedule. A
Yeah,
lot of
you do.
opportunity. If you do the unthinkable, nobody can quite deny you of what you had planned out in the preseason. Now you have some tough tasks at hand because you're gonna have to figure out how to go on the road to Vaught Hemingway Stadium at Ole Miss and figure out
Mm-hmm.
how to win a game in Kyle Field. So if you're gonna do this, it's gonna take some heroics. And like you said, it's just too tough to ask a team to play above their level of capability for a month on end. Like that's tough. And what we saw last year, winning 6 straight, rare. That's
Right.
rare that you see that in this conference.
Oh
Like
yeah. Oh
that's
yeah.
not something that happens every year.
No, I agree. I think that's the
So
thing is that, you look at what you have after that, and it's not Clemson's not a cupcake. I mean, you also can think, hey,
no.
Clemson look real good because they played Bill Belichick. Otherwise, they look like hot trash. And that's not just us saying that. I think everyone can agree. But look, the biggest thing, we need to understand this. Like, let's be honest. Speaking of Clemson, this is holistic for me. Okay, why did you hire Shane Beamer? You hired Shane Beamer because you were a terrible SEC program, and outside of Spurrier, that's what you had been. So you wanted to take the next step. So to me, what does the next step look like? I think you have to beat Clemson every year, in a sense. Like obviously we always say that, but it's like Army versus Navy. You have to beat your rival. You have to be competitive in that. You have to show a streak. And it's also showing you're competitive in the SEC. These things don't happen overnight. I mean, Shane only wants this job. And I think the biggest thing is that for him, it's showing that he can coach these teams. And it's like, hey, okay, that was a better product than what we've seen. And we're not complacent with that. But, Shane thankfully was honest. He said it starts with me after I think the Mizzou loss. It starts with me. So for him, you just have to have some of mine and I kind of lost it, but it is very tough. I do understand it's very tough for a team to overperform. But the best thing a football team can do is show they've learned from something in the middle of the season. Show they actually are coachable and they learn something. And that requires guys to be together, watch film. That requires guys to do extra work. So those are the questions I'd be asking if I was covering the Gamecocks in Columbia. Is, hey Shane, are guys in the film room more? Are they doing extra work more? How is their togetherness? Because what you don't want is a team to you don't want this team to implode in 4 weeks' time. Like if that happens, you have to have some serious questions. I'm not saying about Shane in a sense. I'm saying about the people on his coaching staff. I'm talking about the people that are his lieutenants because Shane can be responsible for a lot of stuff, but at the end of the day, that this isn't going to get him fired because that's like, where do you go other than him? He's built so much here. It's like, Shane, you got to look at who you're bringing in, because if who you're bringing in is not cutting it for these guys and not turning them, then I'm going to tell you what, they cannot make it in this conference.
No, anywhere. But I think you hit the nail on the head. Can this team stay together? How do you face these battles being on the road here coming up? This is a great opportunity. But with that being said, I think we said everything we could possibly say about this team in these last 30 minutes. So that be with all things being considered, I'm your host Sean T. Stewart. This has been Judge Dropper Sports. This is my very special guest, Forrest Tucker. We appreciate you for being on, man. We appreciate you for tapping in at Gym Dropper Sports, and we're out.